So that's about it for curves. Remember, you can do the colors separate from the rest of the tonality by choosing the curve and setting if you want it on color or luminosity. So for example, if we did a color adjustment, we could add another curves and we could set that one to luminosity, and then we could apply our curves as needed there. A little S curve. And so you can basically break things apart. And with that, you can decide if you've gone too far in the shadows, for example. You can bring that up without affecting your colors. So that's great. But what if you want to do some additional adjustments and curves just don't quite seem to be doing it? Well, you have more adjustment layers available. For example, if we fling this open, we have vibrance, which is phenomenal. We'll increase the vibrancy of the image if we crank that up. And if I remember correctly, what this is really doing is in setting it a little more black and white through the channels palette. Let me go ahead and bring that up to confirm that. Channels. So here we have red. Oh, maybe we'll just get stuck. Hold on. Channels. Boom. Layers. Okay. There we go. So there we go. So let's go ahead and turn down the vibrancy. Yeah, that's about it. It's just increasing the contrast on each of the channels that it goes through. That's all. So that's the vibrancy. And let me put that back real quick with movie. Magic. All right, and then come over to layers. I'm having a slight issue with redocking my tabs right now, or my palettes. So I actually have to break everything off and then move them back in. It's kind of aggravating. I probably just need to reset my preferences. Okay, so we have vibrance. Vibrance also has saturation. So if you want to increase the saturation of everything, wow, and overblow that or decrease it to more of a black and white, you can do that as well. Be careful with using something other than black and white. You can actually get like solid grays where there used to be a couple delineations of color. We'll talk about that more when we get into colorizing an image later in the semester. So you can increase the vibrance, for example. And remember how we were having problems with magenta and we can like wiggle around and we had to keep flattening the curve? Well, under adjustment layers, we also have hue and saturation, which allows us to target specific locations. We'll talk about this more when we go over color, but it means that we can hit straight up magenta and then just, control the saturation and desaturate the magenta quite a bit. Although it appears to be not updating my image, which is kind of a bummer. Let's see if that's why. Notice it has an on-screen adjustment tool as well. Oh, it's not quite magenta. It's actually more of a purple. Well, that's why I was having such a problem. So it also has the on-screen adjustment tool. You can click right in an area and it will isolate the colors that you're clicking on and allow you to remove the casting. And that's just under hue and saturation adjustment layer, on-screen adjustment, and maybe crank up the greens. Maybe not that much, just a little, just a smidge. There we go. I kind of like these blues. That's a little too vibrant. Well, yeah, that is too much. If you start getting this, that's too much, guys. So let's say you've adjusted this a lot and you think you might have overdone it. I actually don't think that's the case here, but let's say you do think that's the case. You can just lower the opacity. It will de-strengthen everything that you've done. It's true for the curves as well. I'm just lowering the opacity on each of these adjustment layers. Okay, so you have those tools available, but guess what you also have? All these layers come with, voila, a mask, your most favorite of things. So if you've accidentally deleted it, not a problem, just add a new layer mask, boom, it's there. So let's say we came in with our quick select tool and maybe a little bit bigger so it would actually do something. And we selected all of the sky. And you guys remember from week 1 videos, all of the tools that you can use so that you don't select the hair and all of that, but we're isolating according to color as well. So I'm not super concerned about the details. I just want to grab all the bluish area in here. All right, and I'm going to first fill it in with black and black blocks, white reveals. So I'm just going to invert this whole thing. Should have done that for the get-go. All right, now that's what I want. So the horses and everything aren't being affected by this process, which means that I can come in with the on-screen adjustment tool and I could get rid of that purple value as much as I want. And I can increase this blue as much as I want, and it won't affect the horses. The horses will be left alone. So I can target just this guy. How amazing is that? And that's also true for curves. So for example, I held down the Alt key and dragged the layer down and replaced this layer mask with that one. You'd see now that this curve, which was our luminosity, is now just affecting the horses. If I disable it, is now only affecting the sky and not the horses, which is kind of not what I want, unless it is. So let's say that I've got this curve, and then I duplicate it, okay? And I invert this mask, Control I. All right, so now what? Now I'm only affecting the horses. That means I don't have to pay attention to the sky at all. And if I refresh this, you'd see that this is very different. I'm going to reset this whole mask. The histogram's way different now. So maybe I really want to handle it differently as well. I need to increase this a little bit. Handle it differently as well. Hold down the Alt key. Notice how different it is when it's masked out. It shows what's being affected very, very differently. Maybe I want to open up those shadows a little bit on the horse. Maybe I want something more like this on the horses. There you go. I have geographically trapped the levels. I actually don't like this very much, but it gives you an idea of what's going on. The problem is I've got way too much. I'm actually going to switch the pencil tool. Oops, I'm switching the pencil tool and smooth this out a bit. And then switch back over here and now bring it in. That helps a little bit, but you can see I'm starting to get some kind of crummy effects. That's because this is way too strong. I've heard it said you only have to move a little bit to get a big adjustment. So you've got that going on. But let's say you have one other thing happening. What if you want to do a side-by-side comparison? And what do I mean by that? Let's say that I duplicated this layer. Maybe I unlocked this one. I called this one like original or something. And we called this one edited. And let's say that I made another layer below it. And I made it black, just a solid black color. I could grab it and drag it down. Doesn't need a mask, just get rid of that. Okay, so now if I doubled the width of the canvas by going to Image Canvas Size, and I could double the width by setting an anchor point either left or right, and then setting the width to % instead of inches. I don't care how much it is, I'll just make it 200%. Boom, it's 200%. So now, if I move the original over, well, they're all being affected. I really want only this one to be affected. Ah, there is a way. Well, first off, some of them are not being affected because of the way that the mask's extended, but we're going to set this 100%. Remember when I said that way at one of the first videos, you can clip it. This adjustment affects all layers below. Click to clip. Oh, look at that. It's the same thing as alt clicking or going up to the layer clipping mask, create clipping mask, or Control G, I think. You can also do a whole bunch of them if you want to do that, which is image, oh, maybe not, layer, there it is, create clipping mask, boom. So now we can see on the left is our edited copy and on the right is the original. So probably made it a little too yellow, and I think I've got like this weird almost posterization effect, so we could go in and correct that on each piece. And I believe that was this one. No, that one's fine. Oh, is this one? Really? All right. So the very first curves, which is just mostly a color adjustment. And in fact, it's only on color, but it's still a little strong. So we could just reduce the opacity. Oh, you know what? I kind of miss it just a little bit. Oh, that's better. Probably come in and do a few more adjustments on it, but you kind of get the gist. Guess what we're doing for this week's assignment? We're doing a side-by-side comparison of a color and tonality changes and edits and improvements. So essentially this. So let's go ahead and actually walk all the way through the assignment using the assignment sheet, and then you guys will be ready to do it yourselves. All right, I'll see you in the next video.